Hello there! In this tutorial, you are going to learn the pros and the cons of selling online versus selling in person, as well as the strategies for mastering each one of them. Also, how do they fit into your strategy as a small business owner? Now, selling in person is generally a lot easier than selling online. It's easier to build trust with people, you can overcome objections, and you can read people's emotion. However, selling online is incredibly scalable, and that's why many smart businesses start selling more so in person when they're getting started and then implement more online selling as time goes on. Now, selling in person has some pretty large advantages. When I started my business 4 years ago, nearly every sale came from meeting with people person to person. Selling is really about building rapport and trust, which is easier in person, and it's easier to create a relationship when you're meeting with someone. You can use emotional intelligence, and when you're meeting with someone, you can really see like how they're responding and what they're thinking and what they're frustrated with. It's also really easy to tell when they're becoming distracted, frustrated, disinterested, upset, and you can really respond to all of these emotions and ask them questions, adjust your conversation based on all of their responses to what you're saying. You can not really do this in the same way with online sales, that direct response to people. So you can cover a lot of objections, but you can't have that direct one-to-one relationship. Also, in person, you'll really have people's full attention. Often when people are browsing online, they may have a lot of tabs open. You've got just a couple seconds to grab their interest. While you want to keep your in-person meetings exciting and engaging, you don't need to hook people in within 2 seconds or they'll leave in the same way that you do online. One option that does offer you some level of scale, but that in-person feedback and questions, is by public speaking. This lets you connect with a lot of people at once. It also really makes yourself the authority and people see you as an expert when you're a public speaker, but you don't have to figure out the intricacies of online. So one of the big benefits of online is it is just incredibly scalable. While you can hire more salespeople, this does require new training, managing employees, making sure these employees are making you more money than they're costing you. Whereas if you have an online website that gets a lot of traffic, sales or leads can come rolling in day after day after day. This made a huge difference for my business, having that set up and getting traffic. Now, this isn't only for online shops, the whole selling online. I've worked with contractors, chiropractors, dentists who have it set up so they can book appointments online, and really building a strong online foundation no matter what you're doing is really powerful, because 97% of people will look you up before choosing to do business with you. So that's important to remember. If you really find an online ad or a sales funnel or just the exact right words to use, the right website to create, this can drive business and leads for your business for years and years and years on close to autopilot. We also looked at in person. There was not only face-to-face meetings, but there was public speaking. You could do like a webinar or a training online and get similar results, and then you don't have to, drive across town, line up the opportunity, go through that whole process. I could pull out my phone right now and do a webinar or a training or a Facebook or Instagram live pretty quickly. Now, you do need an audience or some plan to get a lot of people onto that webinar or that training. Otherwise, you'll probably be doing it for just a couple people. Now, we highlighted some of the advantages with selling in person. I do want to highlight a couple disadvantages. First, it's really time consuming. And if you have a really limited amount of time and resources, meeting with people in person and driving across town, finding parking, money on coffee and lunch, dealing with complex scheduling and cancellations, people not showing up, preparing for the meeting, commuting, doing the meeting, sending a follow-up email. This can be a lot of time per person, and you may have tons of time to do that when you're not busy, but when you're busy, suddenly all of that face-to-face meetings just gets thrown out the window, and which could be a big issue like 4 months in the future because you won't be lining up work. So, that can take 3 hours of your time per person or a lot more. There also can be some level of awkwardness or discomfort when you're trying to sell someone in person if they have a really bad reaction. It's a lot more intense doing that in-person selling. Because if someone's on their website and they just kind of lose interest, they'll just simply leave. But potential customers can become rude or hostile or aggressive on occasion. And also just doing these face-to-face meetings, it's really awesome. But if you're lining up a whole bunch, it can be draining after a while, definitely. So what are the disadvantages of selling online? Well, people tend to be incredibly distracted when they're online. They've got ads, social media, so many websites competing for their attention, notifications going off. More than half of users spend less than 15 seconds on a website. And people also tend to be a lot more hesitant with online transactions. Like a US government survey found that half of Americans are really reluctant to shop online, especially at websites that they're not familiar with. They're maybe nervous that you'll steal their credit card info or take their money and deliver absolutely nothing. And you could include with your online selling something like a chat bot, or even encourage people to call you or send you messages directly, so you're at least bringing a little human-to-human interaction back into it. One thing that you can do is you can sell through established websites like Amazon, eBay, and Etsy, and this will take away some of the risk, especially if you have really, really good seller ratings. Also, having the option to pay through PayPal or Stripe makes people a little less nervous than simply having them fill out their credit card with something they may not be as familiar with. A much lower percent of people will decide to do business with you online. Like for ads, it varies, but it's not uncommon for 1 to 2% of people to click your link from your ad, and 2 to 5% of those people to actually make a purchase. So that'd be 1 out of 10,000 people who sees your ad actually goes to make a purchase. And this is actually, if you're doing an ad where you're just trying to get them to do one specific thing, it's called like a landing page, where it's designed so they'll specifically for them taking one action. If you're doing paid ads to a blog post or a more general website, often it's a lot lower, the percentage of people who will make a purchase. Another really important element of online sales is having really amazing testimonials and reviews. If you're really, really early in your business, you'll probably want to do mostly in-person selling until you can get that built up. And get some case studies or really, really happy customers. If you do exclusively in-person sellings, you will be reliant on networking, in-person meetings, and word of mouth. And often when people get busy and you don't have the time, then suddenly your sales will drop out. When it comes to online selling, just having a Google My Business or a Yelp page can really give business owners new leads ongoing. It may not be a lot or quite a few right away, but just having that profile really well set up and having reviews where anyone can leave a review is really, really impactful and can bring in new business, customers, leads, clients without really much extra effort. You can kind of set it up once and just tweak it every so often. Even if you're doing a ton of face-to-face selling, incorporating just a little bit of online sales or lead capturing is really key for gaining that consistent flow of customers. It also will help you really attract just the right people, because it really opens up your pool of options. If you serve only female golfers that are over 40, it will be really hard to find those people just by networking and hoping you run into them. But having a larger pool of people with like paid ads and advertisements means you can attract just the right clients. Now, growing a small business isn't just about gaining customers. It's about attracting the right customers who are willing to pay more, who are easier to work with, and who really appreciate your business. So having that wider pool and that more advanced targeting can open up some options to do just that. Even if you have a shop that is exclusively online, you're actually still going to want to do in-person selling. And here's why. There can be potential partnership or distributors or just people who can do huge things for your business, amazing connections, and you don't want to just build that online. You want to be building really, really powerful connections with people who could bring you or generate, tens of thousands of sales. So there's still a lot of in-person meeting and selling, and those skills are still valuable, even if you have exclusively an online shop and no physical locations. Whether you're selling online or whether you're selling in person, getting the right reviews and building trust in the right way is so incredibly important. So I did a video just on that. So I highly recommend checking that out. That'll build off everything we talked about here and really set it up so your business is incredibly trusted and relied upon. Anyway, go to that video now, but I want to thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in that one.